The fall wind blew and howled down the streets of Chicago, shattering windows with their whispers of what was to come. Melissa Hartwell was alone in her warm living room, the pregnancy test shaking in her fingers. Two unmistakable bold red lines glared back at her, clear as a sign. Her first pregnancy in 3 years of marriage, a long-awaited dream finally taking shape. But amidst the happiness, a small seed of doubt flickered. What if anything went awry? Brian, her husband, was in his study, lost in work. Melissa's heart pounding, she called out to him. "Brian, come here, quickly." Her voice resonated slightly in the peaceful home. Brian came, his glasses resting on the end of his nose, a furrowed brow suggesting confusion. "What's wrong, Mel?" "You're pale." She handed him the test, her fingers touching his. "Look at this." Brian's blue eyes widened, reading the result. He stood there for a moment, then wrapped his arms around her tightly. "Is this real? Are we having a baby?" His voice shook with emotion, the rational researcher dissipating. Melissa laughed and cried. "We need an official doctor's confirmation, but yeah, I think so." That evening, they kept it quiet, hesitant joy building anticipation for what's to come. Melissa drank sparkling juice with no alcohol, her hand on her flat stomach. Brian picked up a glass of wine, his eyes glinting. "To our little family." But as they clinked glasses, Brian's phone vibrated, a work email regarding an urgent project deadline. He shut it off, but Melissa caught the tension in his shoulders. Work at medical research was hectic, particularly now. "Tell me about your day," Brian said, diverting the topic. Melissa related her enthusiasm, leafing through baby catalogs on the table. Nursery colors, crib designs, everything was just right. But secretly, she feared that Brian's work would take him away. The following week, at the obstetrician's office, the ultrasound told her. A small heartbeat flashed on the monitor, steady and strong. Brian, who had insisted on accompanying her in spite of his busy schedule, wiped away tears. "Thank you, doctor. This is all we need." During the drive home, he held her hand firmly. "I won't let you do too much, Mel. Switch to working from home at the accounting firm. Your health and the babies." Melissa smiled, moved by his dedication. Brian had always been considerate, but now he was changing. He studied pregnancy nutrition like a researcher with a cause. At home, he put his hand on her abdomen every night. "Hey, little one, how was your day?" "Daddy can't wait to meet you," Melissa observed, her heart overflowing, but a secret concern seeped in. What if his work picked up? Weeks went by and morning sickness came hard. Melissa woke up queasy, hardly keeping water down. Brian commandeered the kitchen, transforming it into a laboratory. "I'll try things out like I do at work," he quipped. He purchased books on prenatal vitamins, graphing folic acid and iron consumption. Ginger tea for sickness, banana smoothie for potassium. One day, he showed her a graph of her weight patterns. "This rate, you'll gain just fine." Melissa smiled, relieved, but fatigue persisted. As her belly expanded slightly, Brian went shopping for mobiles and organic onesies. "This pastel set is not boy or girl." The store clerk suggested it. They strolled parks on weekends and fantasized about stroller pushes. "Next year we'll be here with our baby," said Brian, arm around her. But his phone rang again, another crisis on the job. Melissa pushed the discomfort aside. By month 4, nausea subsided, appetite resumed. Brian upped his care, purchasing pricey supplements. "This Japanese DHA stimulates brain growth," he said. His lab mates swore by it. Melissa took them every day, feeling cherished. But Brian came home late one night, frazzled. "Project's tight now. I may miss some follow-ups. It's for our future, security, increased income." Melissa got it, but isolation whispered. She attended appointments alone, the generosity of the ultrasound technician filling the void. The baby kicked for the first time, a flutter that made her catch her breath. She sent Brian a video, but he took his time to respond. At home, he caught up, feeling the movements in awe. "You're energetic today, kiddo. Daddy's getting your room ready, air purifiers, natural paints. No toxins, the very best." Melissa appreciated his perfectionism, but there were cracks. Working late at the lab meant eating fast, exhausted chats. He once left out asking her about her day. "Is everything going well at work?" she asked. "Just pressure," he replied vaguely. Tension mounted. What was this project concealing? By month 6, visits multiplied, but Brian showed up less. "Sorry, Mel. Success here translates to security for us." Melissa smiled, concealing her increasing loneliness. She wallpapered the nursery in solitude, picking out gentle blues and greens. Fetal activity intensified, a secret tie. But rumors of uncertainty grew as well. Brian's vitamins stacked up, vitamins, probiotics, enigmatic pills from research. "Take these, they're state-of-the-art." She swallowed them, blindly trusting. One day, a sudden pain struck her belly. She phoned Brian, but he was in a conference. There was panic. What if it was something? The ER tests indicated dehydration, nothing bad. The doctor looked at her supplements. "They're strong, use only recommended ones." Melissa's suspicion was kindled for the first time. Back home, Brian burst in, anxious. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "Just a fright," she said, observing his face. His relief appeared real, but his phone rang continuously. As the 3rd trimester approached, Brian's shifts grew longer. The house seemed emptier, the happiness shadowed. Melissa poured out her worries over coffee with a friend. "He's so committed, yet work is taking over." She had no idea, though, that the storm was coming. Brian's project involved drugs, yes, something even worse. A midnight phone call she overheard. "The formula's ready, she'll never suspect." Her heart was racing. What formula? Suspense grew, the perfect life fraying. Melissa caressed her belly, speaking softly to the baby. "We'll be fine, okay?" But suspicion hung in the air, paving the way for the revelation of betrayal. Melissa sat in the parking lot of the hospital, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. Dr. Richardson's words repeated in her mind. The drugs in her system. The normal shadows around her baby. Intentional poisoning by someone with medical training. Brian, her devoted husband, was an employee at a drug company. Her stomach coiled as memories came rushing back. The vitamins he made her take. The accurately measured food. His failure to appear at checkups. She tightened her grip on the wheel, tears spilling down her face. How could he do this? Her phone vibrated, Brian's name on the screen. "Hey, how's the checkup? Everything all right?" His message was a lie, calculated and cold. Melissa didn't respond. She put the car in gear, her heart racing. Dr. Richardson had made it plain. "Get someplace safe. Call the police." She couldn't go home, not where Brian was. Her suburban Chicago parents' home was her sole sanctuary. The drive seemed infinite, the November cold seeping in through the windows. She could not stop checking the rearview mirror, half expecting Brian's car behind her. Red lights seemed like a setup for a trap. What if he discovered she'd discovered? Her belly clenched, a tiny kick from the baby anchoring her. "I will guard you," she whispered. No matter what. When she pulled into her parents' driveway, her mother, Carol, opened the door. "Melissa, you're white as a ghost." "What's wrong?" Melissa collapsed into her arms, sobbing. "Mom, help me." "Brian, he's been poisoning me." Carol's eyes widened, pulling her daughter inside. Her father, James, appeared from the living room, his face stern. As a retired police officer, he read the fear in Melissa's eyes. "Tell us everything," he said, his voice calm but sharp. Melissa recounted the hospital visit. Dr. Richardson's pale face. The blood test revealing drugs she'd never taken. The ultrasound's unusual shadows. He swore only a medical professional could obtain those drugs. Brian's a researcher at medical research. Carol covered her mouth. That can't be true. He's so kind, so dedicated. James's jaw clenched. Kindness can be a disguise. Melissa, you're spending the night here. Tomorrow we begin digging. Melissa nodded, her body shaking. She was betrayed, exposed, but no longer alone. Her parents' support was a lifeline. That evening, she slept in her childhood room, the kicks of the baby keeping her up. She replayed every second with Brian. His late nights in the lab. The supplements he'd give her every morning. This one's for brain development, he'd said, smiling. That smile, was it always a lie? She recalled a night when he returned home after midnight with a whiff of chemicals on him. Just a long day in the lab, he'd said, kissing her forehead. Now she was curious what he'd been blending. James had Mike Thompson, a private eye, on the phone by morning. Mike, it's an emergency. My daughter's life hangs in the balance. Mike, an ex-FBI agent, had a good reputation for getting at the truth. I'll begin today, he said. Tell me everything you have on Brian. Melissa gave him her phone, her hands shaking. She took him through the texts, the supplement containers, even Brian's work itinerary. He's been distant lately, she said. Always talking about a big project. Mike's eyes narrowed. Pharmaceutical researchers have access to restricted drugs. If he's involved, we'll find proof. Mike began his investigation with precision. He interviewed Brian's co-workers at medical research. Most described him as brilliant but secretive. One colleague, Sarah, hesitated before speaking. Brian's been working on something off the books. Late nights in the lab alone. He locked his files, which isn't normal here. Mike visited the Hartwell's neighbors next. Mrs. Carter, the elderly lady across the street, had spoken of peculiar deliveries. Packages were delivered at unusual times, she had said. Brian always picked them up before Melissa noticed. Melissa's heart plummeted upon hearing this. What was he concealing? Mike's greatest lead was from Brian's office computer. Helped by Sarah, he viewed deleted emails. One was from an unspecified sender, dated months earlier. Formulas ready. Dosages subtle, undetectable in standard tests. Another email spoke of ensuring no complications. Melissa read the copies, her breath hitching. He'd schemed this from the beginning. Before I even became pregnant. James curled his fists into balls. We're not only saving you, Melissa. We're bringing him down. Melissa's fear was replaced with rage. Brian had been the perfect husband, planning it all along to deceive her and her unborn child. She needed justice, not only for herself but for the child she carried inside her. Suing him wasn't sufficient. He'd manipulated her trust, her body, her future. She had to expose him, taint his reputation, make him feel the consequences of his betrayal. She looked at Mike. Can we obtain his lab results? Anything indicating what he's been producing? Mike nodded. It's a risk, but I have someone who works inside medical research. I'll see what we can get. Melissa's thoughts went into overdrive, making a plan. Brian's coworkers admired him. His managers considered him a star. What if she turned the world around him against him? She recalled a gala of a company in 2 weeks. Medical Research's year-end event filled with researchers and executives. The ideal setup to expose his lies. She'd get proof, emails, laboratory journals, perhaps even the medication. Mike recommended a trap. We catch him off guard privately first. Capture his response. If he makes a mistake, we spring it on him at the gala. Melissa consented, but uncertainty crept in. What if Brian suspected that she was in on it? He was calling more often, his messages excessively sweet. Mel, you okay? Home soon. She ignored them, her skin crawling. At her parents' house, she inspected the supplements. The bottles appeared professional, but one was a bit misplaced, the print fuzzy. She texted photos to Mike, who vowed to analyze them. Days passed, then he called with findings. These aren't prenatal vitamins. They're test compounds prohibited for use on humans. Melissa's blood chilled. He'd been feeding her poison, masquerading as care. She thought of the gala, picturing Brian's face as his lies unraveled. But a new fear hit, her baby. Dr. Richardson had said the effects could be minimized if she stopped the drugs. She flushed the supplements, switching to hospital-approved ones. Every night, she whispered to her belly, "We're getting out of this. You're safe now." But Brian's late nights grew stranger. One evening, she saw his car parked near her parents' house, idling across the street. Was he watching her? Her pulse raced as she closed the curtains. She called Mike. "He's following me. I think he knows I'm onto him." Mike's voice was steady. "Stay with your parents." I'm digging deeper into his lab. "We'll have enough soon." Melissa clutched her phone, her plans solidifying. She'd confront Brian at the gala, with evidence in hand. His colleagues, his bosses, the whole room would see him for what he was. But she had to be careful. One misplaced step, and he could vanish with his secrets. Her baby's kicks became more insistent, driving her on. This wasn't revenge, it was survival. Melissa sat in the living room of her parents' house, her fists wrapped around a cup of tea. Mike Thompson stood before her, his expression grim. "Melissa, this is worse than we feared. Brian's been keeping a mistress for 2 years. Her name's Amanda Cooper, a lab technician at Medical Research. She's 5 months pregnant." Melissa's breath hitched, her heart shattering. 5 months when she was 4 months pregnant. Her husband, her sweet Brian, had double-crossed her. Why? Her voice a raw whisper. Why would he do this? Mike pushed his folder open, showing pictures of Amanda, her stomach full. "He's been working on something sinister. These drugs in your system, they're ovulation inhibitors. Experimental ones from his laboratory. They interrupt ovulation, disrupt pregnancy. He wanted you to lose the baby." Carol gasped, putting her hand over her mouth. "Fertility pills? To murder her baby?" James's fists curled, his cop mind kicking in. "There's more, isn't there?" Mike nodded, taking out printed emails. Brian's computer had a timeline. "Make Melissa have a miscarriage, push for a divorce, marry Amanda. He thought your sorrow would get you to accept dividing." Melissa's eyes blazed as she read the blood test results. High levels of chemicals labeled abnormal. Her baby's ultrasound shadows, courtesy of Brian's drugs. "He plotted this before I got pregnant," she whispered. "He never loved us." Mike's voice softened. "He miscalculated. Your body resisted the drugs. Most women would have lost the baby early, but yours held on." Melissa touched her belly, feeling a faint kick. "You're a fighter," she murmured to her baby. James stood, his face like stone. "We're calling the police. Now." The next morning, Melissa and James walked into the Chicago police station. Her hands shook as she handed over the evidence. Blood tests, Brian's emails, photos of Amanda, lab records. Detective Sergeant Davis, a seasoned officer, reviewed the files. His eyes narrowed at the timeline. Assault, illegal drug use, possible attempted murder. This is premeditated. We're issuing an arrest warrant today. Melissa's heart pounded, a mix of fear and resolve. She wanted Brian to face justice, but what if he fought back? That evening, police stormed Medical Research. Brian's stunned face, cuffed in front of his peers, hit the local news. "Researcher arrested for poisoning pregnant wife," the banner read. Medical Research fired him then and there. Their stock fell through the floor, projects shut down. The medical community was stunned, rumors of scandal circulating. Melissa watched the television from her parents' living room, her jaw clenched. This was just the beginning. She needed Brian's universe to fall apart, just as he'd attempted to make hers fall. Mike's investigation dug deeper, uncovering Amanda's role. She wasn't innocent. Texts between her and Brian revealed her complicity. "Once Melissa's out, we're free," Amanda had written. "I'll be your only family." Melissa's blood boiled. Amanda had known about the drugs, encouraged them. When confronted, Amanda played the victim. "Brian lied to me," she sobbed to police. "He said he was divorced." But her texts told a different story. Melissa's plan sharpened, she'd expose them both. The gala for the company was called off, but there was a public trial on the horizon. Chicago's media was starved for the story. She'd see that every bit, Brian's drugs, Amanda's treachery, made it to the public. Mike waited for her in a coffee shop, laptop open. "We've got more." Lab records indicate Brian made the drugs in-house. Used company equipment, kept it from his team. Melissa's brow furrowed. "Can we leak this to the press?" Before trial? Mike hesitated. "It's a risk, but it'll ruin his reputation." "Do it," she told him. "Let his friends, his colleagues, everybody know." Days before his trial, Mike alerted a hometown reporter. The story blew up. Researcher used lab to poison wife's pregnancy. Brian's name was everywhere, his face on every newsstand. Amanda's involvement leaked too, her victim charade unraveling. She disappeared from Chicago, leaving behind her job, her friends turning against her. Melissa remained with her parents, shunning Brian's pleading calls. "Mel, please, let's talk," his voicemails pleaded. She erased them, her heart turned cold. But there was still fear. What if he made bail? One evening, she heard a car lingering outside. Looking out the curtains, she saw Brian's sedan. Her heart pounded as she called James. "He's here, Dad." James took out his old service gun, canvassing the street. Car had disappeared, but the danger seemed genuine. Trial started on a December day when it snowed. Melissa waited in the courtroom, her stomach full, close to her due date. Brian waited across the room, his eyes empty, refusing to concede her eye contact. Amanda waited too, her face drawn, no longer pregnant. She'd given her child up for adoption, severed ties with Brian. The evidence was laid out by the prosecutor. Toxic levels of suppressant blood test results. Brian's emails, timeline, lab logs. Coworker, shaken, testified. Brian worked late hours, concealed samples. "I believed he was committed, not a monster." Melissa stepped forward, her voice firm under her nerves. "He gave me drugs to terminate my child. He wanted to leave me shattered, to begin again with her." She pointed at Amanda, who turned away. Courtroom hummed, reporters writing. Brian's attorney maintained he merely intended to stress Melissa, not murder. But the judge was not convinced. The evidence was compelling. 3 months afterward, Melissa gave birth to a healthy female child named Emily. Dr. Richardson was crying as he took hold of the baby. "She's a miracle," he muttered. "Your love kept her going strong." Melissa hugged Emily, small fingers wrapping tightly around hers. The fear, the betrayal, they all melted away in that instant. The verdict of Brian was delivered shortly afterward. 5 years in jail for assault and illicit drug use. His professional life was destroyed, excluded from the medical profession for life. Medical research was sued, their reputation in shambles. Amanda vanished, her life unraveling in the scandal's wake. Melissa moved into a small apartment near her parents. Carol watched Emily during the day, cooing over her granddaughter. "She's got your eyes, Mel," Carol said, smiling. James checked in often, his police instincts never fading. Brian's locked away. "You're safe now." Melissa rebuilt her life, balancing accounting work and motherhood. Midnight feedings were tough, but Emily's giggles made it worth it. One spring afternoon, Dr. Richardson invited them to his house. "You and Emily are special," he told them. "I want to watch her grow." Melissa smiled, her heart warm with gratitude. He'd rescued them, a stranger who had become family. pushing Emily's stroller in a park, Melissa thought. A year ago, she'd almost lost everything. Brian's betrayal had broken her trust, but not her spirit. Real family wasn't about blind loyalty, it was about love that shields, that battles. Her mom and dad, Dr. Richardson, even Mike, they'd taught her that. Emily chattered, holding a flower, her laughter illuminating the twilight. Melissa breathed softly. We made it, baby girl. Love triumphed. Hi, folks, wasn't that a bumpy ride? Melissa turned betrayal into victory, demonstrating love conquers all in the form of lies. If you were caught up in this story, smash that like button. Comment below, have you ever encountered a betrayal this profound? Share this with others, they need to hear it. Subscribe and press the bell for more epic stories of justice and comeback. Support us on Patreon to suggest your own story ideas. Catch you in the next one.